Well, let's see if we can find. How are you? Yeah.
I guess it's really resentment.
Oh, no, we're actually not real husband. Oh, thank you. Oh, yeah. Do you mind? Come on in. Then I'll share you all. Fellow, just conflict check to be sure. But now, in the case of Lawrence versus Thomas R. Klein High School, I have appearances from the bank.
Yes, Your Honor. Good morning. My name is Lauren Golston, and alongside my co-counsel Grace Grossenbach, we represent the plaintiff Sydney Newburns on behalf of her son, Rick Newburns. Would Your Honor like a copy of our notice of appearance?
Sure, that'd be lovely.
Permission to approach.
Okay.
Your Honor, plaintiff is ready to proceed pursuant to a few housekeeping matters and one motion in mini.
Sure, we'll come back to those. Defense.
Good morning, Your Honor. Michael Thomas, on behalf of the defendant, Thomas R. Klein High School. I'm joined today by my co-counsel.
Good morning, Your Honor. My name is Madison Smith.
This is a preliminary matter. We'd like to put the court on notice that today we're dropping the assumption of the risk of affirmative defense. Some background, because this jurisdiction would require proving that Marie Newburns, the injured ninth grader, appreciated the risk of harm at the standard of a reasonable 14-year-old, as opposed to appreciate the risk of harm at the standard of the parent signing a waiver form or something like that.
Right.
Accordingly, we would ask that verdict question number 3 be constructively redacted, as well as jury instructions 10 and 11, which both go to the assumption of the risk of defense.
They will be constructively redacted.
We also have a few procedural matters for you, if you'd like to hear those now.
I'm gonna turn back to the plaintiff first, but then I'll come back.
Your Honor, may we have free leave of the,
You may.
may we assume that all witnesses are pre-sworn?
Yes.
When approaching witnesses in today's case, would Your Honor like for us to ask every time to approach or just the first time?
I would like you to ask to approach adverse witnesses, your own witnesses, if you really approach, just keep a clean record.
Yes, Your Honor. Plaintiff intends to offer an expert in today's case named Dr. Kensington Cotter in the field of sports medicine. Would Your Honor like us to formally tender that expert or lay the foundation?
I would like you to do a formal tender, just in case there's a blood here.
Yes, Your Honor. For exhibits in today's case, once evidence is admitted, would Your Honor like for us to freely publish to the jury or ask permission to publish?
Ask, but just the first time.
Your Honor, for today, Plaintiff intends to use a whiteboard demonstrative. Would you like for us to ask to publish the demonstrative to the jury as well?
Just announce for the purposes of that you are assembling a demonstrative, but you don't have to publish it, the jury will be able to see it.
Yes, Your Honor. Objections in today's case. Would you like for us to assume that we're outside of the presence of the jury or ask that we to be outside of the presence of the jury?
You should ask to approach or to be heard.
Yes, Your Honor. After a successful meet and confer with opposing counsel, we have agreed to pre-admit the following exhibits.
Okay.
Exhibit 1, Exhibit 2, Exhibit 3, Exhibit 7, Exhibit 8A, Exhibit 8B, Exhibit 9, and Exhibit 10.
What else now?
And Your Honor, after speaking with opposing counsel in meet and confer, we have agreed to use Exhibit 1 in plaintiff's opening statements.
Okay. Sounds good.
That is all of our housekeeping matters, and we are ready to proceed to our one motion.
Okay, I'll turn to the defense for housekeeping first and then I'll fire.
Yes, Your Honor. For pretrial ruling number 3, the trial is bifurcated, and as the court is aware, that means the jury is only charged with deciding liability in today's case. As such, we would ask that any motion of long-term damages be precluded from coming into the trial today.
That is granted because this is a bifurcated trial. If you feel that plaintiff's counsel crosses that line at any point, feel free to renew your objection. I won't do it as response.
Yes, Your Honor. Additionally, with that meet and confer, we did agree on a few of our substantive motions to put the court on notice. We've agreed that there will be no mention of the fact that Klein High School stopped and push after Marie Barnes was injured. That's a subsequent remedial measure under 407. Plaintiff's counsel has agreed to that one. Additionally, we've agreed to keep out any mention of Coach Powell, the head coach of Klein High School freshman football, and their character traits. As a little bit of background, Coach Powell has a history of clipboards, throwing hats, yelling at players when plays in practice. Set. Those will be staying out of the trial today as improper character evidence under Rule 4.
Okay, understood.
Additionally, Your Honor, we've got a couple of exhibits that we agreed to keep out of the trial today with opposing counsel. If you'd like to know that.
Sure.
That's Exhibit 4, Exhibit 14, Exhibit 15, Exhibit 16, Exhibit 18.
Okay.
Outside of that, Your Honor, we go to plaintiff's motions.
Okay, great. Plaintiff, I'll hear you.
Yes, Your Honor, before we get to plaintiff's motion, I just want to put on the record that we did agree to all of those. We just want to put on the record that the door is open. We would reserve the right to go into those matters or for impeachment purposes.
Into what you've stipulated to keep out of the exhibits specifically.
Yes, Your Honor, what we've stipulated to keep out with defense's motions in limine and the exhibits themselves.
Okay, understood.
Now, for plaintiff's motion in limine, we'll start with by way of background. This is a negligence case in which we, the plaintiff, Sydney Newberens, on behalf of her son, Marie Newberens, are suing Thomas R. Klein, the defendant, for negligence. Thomas R. Klein coached Jackie Powell as the head coach of the freshman football team. Marie Newberens was the quarterback for the 2024-2025 season of that freshman football team. And when running the quarterback sneak, which is going to be mentioned a lot today, it was a play that Coach Jackie Powell decided to run and then modify. And that's what brings us here today. Plaintiff's motion is to exclude 2 specific pieces of testimony from Dr. Omega Adams, which will be the defense's expert in today's case. You learn that Dr. Omega Adams has never been a part of, Dr. Omega Adams, outside of reviewing this case, her only experience with football is watching football, which by that standard, most of us in this room would be experts if that was the standard under 702. But Your Honor, under 702, you have to have requisite experience, knowledge, and bases to testify about a subject matter. The 2 opinions that Dr. Omega Adams has elicited in prior reports would be what a reasonable football coach would be required to research before running a play. That's number 1. And the second one is that the quarterback sneak push to play we're here about today is one of the safest plays in football. The problem with those opinions, in light of her lack of experience in football, Your Honor, is that she's forming about the reasonableness of a football coach without having a basis to understand a football coach's position. plaintiff has no qualms with Dr. Omega Adams testifying about the spinal injury that Marie suffered, the causation of the spinal injury in this case regarding the quarterback sneak push. But to then draw conclusions about the reasonableness of what a football coach should do before running a play, and further, the safety of this play in light of every other play in the sport of football is a hair too far based on the requirements of the 1002. And those two opinions are due to be excluded.
Thank you. Response.
Your Honor, this motion is premature. We will lay foundation that Dr. Mike Adams is a biomechanical expert and a neurosurgeon who has operated on hundreds of spinal injuries, including those sustained from football. Further, Dr. Adams won't be simply saying, I watch football and therefore it's safe. Dr. Adams will be able to say, in the hundreds and hundreds of times this play's been run, I haven't seen any injuries. In a game that we all know is full of those injuries, Dr. Adams will be able to testify that against that standard, it's safer.
You'll have the last word since it's your motion.
Thank you, Your Honor. I would just like to clarify that again, the plaintiff has no qualms with Dr. Adams testifying about the safety of this play, or being injured on this play, or anything related to the spinal injury in this case. Plaintiff's problem with Omega Adams' testimony, Your Honor, is that she's comparing the safety of this play based on what she's reviewed about this play, every other play ever played in football. And that, with the qualification requirements of 702 of knowledge and experience, she does not have to testify as an expert to those opinions in front of this jury. Both the reasonableness of what a head football coach should be required to do before even running a play, and the safety of this play in comparison to every other play in football.
Okay. I am going to take this motion under advisement for now. I do agree with defense counsel that I believe that it sounds like this might be something you might want to watch this one and make your argument. At that point, additionally, this might be something for cross-examination, but I want to see how the testimony comes out with Dr. Adams before we exclude any of their testimony. Does that make sense?
Yes, Your Honor. I just would like to clarify for one here, since we are formally tendering today per our housekeeping rulings, plaintiff does not object to her qualifications as an expert and defense has going to tender her in. Would you like me to object and attempt to voir dire the witness at the time that that opinion is elicited, since it's an opinion-specific objection, or attempt to take the witness on voir dire at the formal tender?
If you have, so if the objection is to a specific part of the opinion, then you would object at the time of the opinion. I wasn't fully sure whether you were saying there needed to be some football related qualifications, which is why I thought this might be an issue. But here, if it's not, you can object at the time of the opinion. We'll take that.
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you. With that, that concludes plaintiff's motions in limine, and we are ready to proceed to opening statements.
Defense, are you ready as well?
Defense is ready, Your Honor.
Okay, well then let's turn to openings. Wilson, whenever you're ready.
Yes, Your Honor. Game is brilliant. My mom hated it. Dad coached it. I remember the long nights, sitting in my mom's truck, doing my homework while my dad was out on the football field, coaching my brother's 14-year-old football team. Of course, my family was the storybook cliche that the coach's son, my 14-year-old brother, was the quarterback. Every night we would go home after practices, sitting around the table eating dinner. I remember my dad sitting with my brother, talking to him about what had happened at practice, reviewing the plays, teaching him technique, but most importantly, crafting those plays in such a way to keep my brother safe. See, that is what my mom was worried about, keeping my brother safe. She was worried about the people that put wins and points over the safety of their players. But my dad always reassured her and his team that football is a great game when you play it the right way. As coaches, we have to always prioritize our players, teach them technique and respect, and put their safety above all else. That was my dad's motto. That was how my dad coached his 14-year-old football team. Thomas R. Klein did not coach their 14-year-old football team. They put points and extra yardage over the safety of their players. Their head coach, Jackie Powell, made multiple dangerous decisions and designed a dangerous play that led to a devastating injury. When you call a bad play, you get a bad ending. When Coach Powell called the bad play that had his freshman quarterback, Malik Newbritz, a 5'2", 109-pound child, in a position to run a play originally designed for NFL players, Malik got a bad ending. Malik suffered from a devastating injury, a life-altering spine. But how did we get here? Let's start from the beginning. It is fall of 2023. The Klein freshman football team is on the field for their last game of the season. They're sweaty, they're exhausted, they're defeated. At this point, they just want to close out this season. Their head coach, Jackie Powell, stood on the sidelines and he looked up at the scoreboard, watching it tick down to 0. The season is over. Another losing season. His second in a row. So Coach Powell knows something has got to give. If Klein keeps turning the ball over, we don't score. If we do not score, we don't get points on that scoreboard. If we don't get points on the scoreboard, I could lose my job. So Coach Powell knows I have to do something. I need something new. I need something to give my team a leg up or some razzle-dazzle, something. One Sunday afternoon, he's watching NFL football. The Philadelphia Eagles come on, and then he has it. The quarterback sneak push, also known as the tush push. This is a play where 2 to 3 players, the Philadelphia Eagles used to, push their quarterback over the line of scrimmage so their team can get a couple extra yards, especially short yardage situations. Now, up until this point, Coach Powell had not thought about running the tush push play yet. After all, it was relatively new in the NFL, and he was unaware of any high school running it. That is because almost every high school in the United States had banned it. Every high school in 48 states had banned this play. Pennsylvania was on its way to banning it too. Not quite yet. Coach Powell knew that. So he said, I'll run it anyway. Yes, Coach Powell has his 5'2", 100-pound quarterback running a play originally designed for grown NFL players. That is a problem. But Coach Powell took it a step further. Coach Powell thought he was an innovator. So he made his own version with 3 distinct modifications from the play he saw on TV. He had 3 players pushing Malik over the line of scrimmage instead of 2, unlike how the Eagles ran it. He had Malik get completely parallel to the ground, chest flat, head down, because he wanted his body like a spear instead of being upright, unlike how the Eagles ran it. Coach Powell had Malik staring at his center's back because he was so low to the ground, instead of looking directly forward, unlike how the Eagles ran it. Coach Powell calls for his modified version to be run 5 times. Each and every time. The Klein football team did exactly what he told them. Each and every time they got up, ran it again, got up, everything was fine. Until September 9th. On September 9th, Klein freshman football team has practice. An hour into practice, it is time to run the tush push, Coach Powell's version. The players line up, the ball is snapped. Marie tries to pierce through the defensive line like a spear, exactly like how Coach Powell told him to. Next thing you know, Marie feels a jolt in his neck, an explosion in his back, and then nothing at all. Marie does not get up. Marie cannot get up. As the plaintiff, we bear the burden of proving to you by the greater weight of the evidence that Thomas is negligent, and that their negligence substantially caused Marie Newburn's injuries. In determining negligence, you must determine what a reasonable person would do under the circumstances. So in this case, what a reasonable coach would have done under the same circumstances. Today, you will hear from Al Clooney, the offensive coordinator for the Klein freshman football team. He will talk to you about those 3 modifications that Coach Powell made to the original NFL tush push play. The evidence will show that Coach Clooney told Coach Powell about his safety concerns for the play. And once he told Coach Powell, what did Coach Powell do? He did what he wanted to do anyway. You will also hear from Dr. Kensington Cotter, an expert in sports medicine, who has treated hundreds of patients with cervical spine injuries just like Marie's. She will tell you that NFL players should not have even been running this play because it was risky. And that Coach Powell had his freshman 14-year-old children running that play, with the modifications, he turned that risk into a guarantee. When you call a bad play, you get a bad ending. Coach Powell made the call to have a child run a modified play that grown NFL men run. When he made that call, Marie got a devastating injury. And that is why at the end of this trial, my co-counsel, Grace Grossenbach, will stand before you and ask that you find Thomas R. Klein liable for negligence.
Goldston? Yes, Your Honor. Whenever you're ready, Ms. Smith.
Coach made a call. A call to use a play allowed by every college team in this country. A play that had been run in the NFL hundreds of times. A play that was allowed here, Pennsylvania. That call played by the rules. That call was reasonable. What happened to Brave New Barnes was a tragedy. When that happens, we all look for someone to blame. But a trial is a search for the truth. This trial is about whether Klein High School making that call was negligent. And it's their burden of proof to show you that today. But members of the jury, when you have the full picture, you will know that they will fail. How will you know that? Because this play wasn't invented by Klein High. It started a few miles south of here at Lincoln Financial Field by the Philadelphia Eagles. And on July 15th, 2024, when Coach Jackie Powell decided to include the tush push in the Klein High School playbook, which is typical for high school football coaches to do and follow NFL plays, not a single quarterback had ever been injured. No spinal injuries had ever occurred on the play. And the play was allowed under the Pennsylvania Athletic Association rules. which is what high school football coaches follow. And he had a player run the play who had been medically cleared by a doctor to play football. How else will you know they won't be able to meet their burden? Because today you will meet two experts. Both care about kids and spines and safety. One thinks the play was safe, one doesn't. Members of the jury, you'll be left knowing when two experts don't agree, a coach going with one of those decisions is reasonable. And the expert you'll meet from the plaintiff, Dr. Cotter, will confirm much of what I've already told you today. That no quarterback had been injured running the play, no spinal injuries, the play was allowed in Pennsylvania. And you'll meet our expert, Dr. Omega Adams, who's not just a general sports medicine practitioner who deals with the wrists and the ankles as much as the spine. Dr. Adams has one area of specialization, the spine. Dr. Adams is a neurosurgeon who's operated on over 1,000 spines and can actually tell you today how force actually impacts the human body and how some plays are actually safer when players are smaller. Because when you use science and logic, you know that smaller players means lower impact plays. You won't just hear expert testimony. We're going to show you a video of the play being run by the pros. We're going to show you a video of the Philadelphia Eagles running the tush-push play. And you'll see, even though no quarterback is injured, Jalen Hurts is still exposed to the potential of taking hits, helmet-to-helmet contact, when he goes high over the top of the players. Coach Powell did what coaches do. Instructed his quarterback to go lower. Try to reduce his quarterback from taking extra hits. And you'll see that that call was reasonable for a coach to make for freshman football. The plaintiff just got up here and talked to you a lot about this modification, the tush-push being unsafe. But members of the jury, they're not going to be able to do that to you today. Because you won't hear a rule that says freshman football coaches have to consult medical doctors every time they add a playbook in their high school football team. You're not going to hear a rule that says doctors have to do coaches have to do medical research before they add a play in their football high school playbook. Members of the jury, you're not going to hear anything that actually tells you today whether or not a football coach is not allowed to change the technique of players. What happened to Rick Barnes was a tragedy. And if that were the issue in this case, we could all agree and go home. But this trial is about a search for the truth. They had to prove to you today that Klein High School was negligent. But they won't, because that is not what happened. That is why at the end of this trial, my co-counsel, Michael Thomas, will stand right here. And he'll ask you to do the hard thing, but the right thing. To put your emotions to the side, judge this case based on the facts. When you do that, you'll find the only verdict actually supported by those facts. A verdict that finds Klein High School not liable.
Thank you, Ms. Smith. I'd like to call the case.
Yes, Your Honor, plaintiff calls Al Clooney to the stand.
Louis, you are sworn.
Please introduce yourself to us.
My name's Al Clooney.
What do you do for a living?
Right now, I'm a football coach at Epstein.
What did you do before starting at school at Epstein?
I worked as a football coach and a physics teacher at Klein School.
What was your role on the football team at Klein?
I was the offensive coordinator for the freshman football team.
How long were you with Klein?
About 11 years.
Now, Coach Clooney, I want to get into some football. I'm sure a lot of us are familiar with football, but for those of us who are not, what are the basics?
So basically, you have two teams, 11 players each. One is at the offense, one is on defense. The offense is trying to get the ball to the end zone, and the defense is trying to prevent that from happening.
As offensive coordinator, or while offensive coordinator, who else coached with you?
We had a defensive coordinator as well and the head coach.
As offensive coordinator, did you decide which plays were going to be run?
No, that was the head coach, Jackie Powell.
For the upcoming 2024 season, were there any new plays incorporated into the playbook?
Yes, we incorporated the tush push.
What's the point of the tush push?
The point of the tush push is basically to gain yardage by pushing the runner forward.
Coach Clooney, I want the jury to be able to see the tush push. So I'm going to ask you a few questions, and based off your answers, I'm going to diagram them for the jury. Okay. Your Honor, permission to use the whiteboard as a demonstrative?
Of course, go ahead.
Your Honor, permission to move so I can see the demonstrative.
Yes.
And if this happens again, you don't have to ask, just go through your decision.
Coach Clooney, can you see the whiteboard?
Again,
Okay, so when the Klein freshman football team runs the tush push, how many players are lined up on the line?
7.
So I'm going to draw 7 circles to indicate the line. Where is the center?
So right in the center.
So I'm going to draw a C to indicate the center. Where is the quarterback?
Right behind the center.
I'm going to draw a circle right behind the center with a Q to indicate the quarterback. Now, where are there any players behind the quarterback?
Yes, there's 3 arranged in a sort of triangular formation behind the quarterback.
I'm going to draw 3 circles in triangular formation behind the quarterback. Does that look like how the Klein freshman football team ran the tush push?
Yeah, you got it.
So once the ball is snapped, what do the offensive linemen do?
You push forward towards the defense.
So I'm going to draw lines indicating the offensive lineman pushing forward towards the defense. What about the quarterback and the 3 players behind us?
The quarterback drives through the line, and the 3 players behind him are pushing him forward, helping.
So I'm going to draw 3 lines showing the 3 players pushing the quarterback. I'm going to draw an arrow showing the quarterback pushing to the center. Is this an accurate depiction of how the Klein freshman football team ran the tush push?
It is.
You have permission to preserve this whiteboard demonstrative plans exhibit A.
Granted.
Was Klein the first team to ever run tush push?
No, the Eagles have been running it since 2021.
Were other high schools running this play at the time?
No, not that I know.
Were freshman football teams even allowed to run this kind of play?
They were technically allowed, but there were guidances against it by the NFHS.
What is the NFHS?
It's the National Football High School Rulemaking Body. They make guidances nationwide for all high schools.
Now you mentioned guidances. What was the guidance against the tush push?
That you couldn't push the runner forward to make forward progress.
Now, at the time of the 2024 season, had Pennsylvania adopted that guidance yet?
Not at the time of the 2024 season.
When did they adopt it?
They adopted it to be in effect for the 2025 through 2026 season, so the one right after that.
When did you learn that Pennsylvania was going to adopt it for the following season?
I learned in May of 2024, right for the 2024 to 2025 season.
When did Klein decide to incorporate the tush push into their playbook?
For that season.
Your Honor, we're no longer using the demonstrative for this line of questioning. Could we move it out of the way of council table?
Sure, just so that they're able to see the words, just push it back a little bit.
Let's see. Once the tush push was in the playbook, did you ever have concerns with running it?
Yes, I was concerned about the safety of the play
Why is that?
because of the concerns going around at the NFL level. I was concerned that high schoolers doing this play would not be the best idea.
Did you tell head coach Powell about your concerns?
Yes,
Once you told him, what was his response?
he said if it works for the Eagles, it works for us, and anybody calling it unsafe is just jealous.
Coach Clooney, we have talked a lot about the tush push. Now I want to talk to you about the player that had to run this play. Who was the starting quarterback for the 2024 season?
That was Marie Lawrence.
Your Honor, I was cited in court and opposing counsel to what has been pre-admitted as Exhibit 1. What made Marique a good candidate for quarterback?
Well, he was small, but he had a great arm, he had great energy, and he was very coachable.
How tall was he?
He was 5'2",
How much did he weigh?
109 pounds.
You said he was small. How did Marique's size impact how Klein had to run the play?
Because of his size, Coach Powell modified the play in 3 ways.
What were those 3 modifications?
So the first one was that instead of 2 players pushing Marique forward, we had 3 in that triangular formation. Instead of like the NFL players do it being more upright, Marique was parallel to the ground. And because of that, his line of sight was directly on the center's back instead of being able to see everything going on in front.
Did Marique ever struggle incorporating those modifications?
Yes, a few times.
How so?
Well, he never seemed to get low enough, parallel enough to the ground for Coach Powell's liking. So Coach Powell would yell at him to do it better, even pull down his helmet to the ground to show him how low he needed to be.
How many times did Marique run this version of the play?
3 times at practice on August 20th, once at a game on September 5th, and then the final time on September 9th at practice.
Prior to September 9th, had Marique ever gotten injured running this play?
Well, after the September 5th game, I did see him grabbing his back as he came back from running the play.
I want to talk to you now about what happened to Marique on September. What happened at practice that day?
It was about an hour into practice, and we were going to run the tush push. And Marique got low, just like Coach Powell wanted. And he started it.
Once the play was ran, what happened to Marique?
2 players on the defense grabbed him. Another one jumped onto his back. And by the end of the play, everyone was piled on top of Marique.
Once the play was over, did Marique get up?
No, he was motionless, unresponsive. I tried to call out for him, but no response.
Nothing further for the witness at this time, Your Honor. Permission to retrieve Exhibit 1 from the witness.
Granted. Cross-examination?
Yes, Your Honor. Football's a contact sport, right, Coach?
Absolutely right.
Players get hit,
Yes,
they get knocked down.
Yes.
Sometimes they end up with other players on top.
that's true.
Now, you say that you were talking about concerns with the push. Are you familiar with the phrase, if you see something, say something?
True. I am familiar with that word.
That means if you see a danger, you speak up, right?
Yeah, generally,
And you say you spoke up to Coach Powell on July 1st about your concerns.
yes, I did.
But there were other coaches at Klein High School, right?
Yes,
JV coaches above you,
yes,
varsity above them,
yes,
all the way to top, an athletic director.
right.
But on July 1st, you didn't mention any of those concerns to any of those people.
No, that meeting was just between Coach Powell and I, so I put everything I had on the table for her.
We're fast forward to July 15th. That's the day that you get the client playbook, right?
That's true.
And the push is in there.
Yes,
Now it's real.
I suppose so. It's on paper.
And at that point, still you didn't raise any concerns to anybody else.
No,
August 13th. You named Marie the starting quarterback.
Jackie Powell is it. Yes.
It was you and Jackie Powell.
Yes, he approved Marie for quarterback.
Kind of the best option for the team.
That's true.
Great athlete.
Yeah,
He reminded you of Michael Vick, right?
yeah, he did.
And at that point, knowing his size, knowing the place in the playbook, you still didn't express any concerns to any of those people we talked about.
Right, not besides Jackie Powell.
But that was, again, on July 1st.
Yes, that I talked to Jackie Powell.
And you never expressed any concerns leading up to the point where you named Marie the starter.
Right,
August 20th, you see the play run for the first time in practice, right?
yes,
And at the time, you're the offensive coordinator.
yes,
It's your job to implement the offense.
right. It's my job to put plays in practice.
You're the one in the know.
What do you mean by that?
Well, you know offense. It's your job.
Yeah, it's offensive coordinator. That was my title.
You see it run 3 times.
Yes, in practice.
You don't see any injuries.
Not at that time.
And after watching it actually run in practice, you don't express any concerns to anybody.
Not at that time. I already had.
No. September 5th, that's the game for our little.
Yes,
We run it in a game.
yes,
You just mentioned that you saw him grab it in his back a bit in the game.
yes,
You were on the sidelines.
yes.
And you checked in on him and said, "Are you okay?"
I did.
And he said, "Yeah, coach, I'm fine. I'll be good to go by the next drive."
Right.
And you finished the game.
Yeah.
Still, after knowing that you got banged up a bit on the play, you didn't express any concerns to anybody else.
No, he said he was okay, so I believed him.
Because football players get banged up all the time, right?
It's generally true.
Now, let's take a look at the actual play. We somewhat get drawn up by plaintiff's counsel there, but we've got the actual play. Your Honor, permission to publish exhibit 3 by blow up 30 minutes.
Yes, correct.
This is the actual play, right, coach?
Yes,
The one that was in the playbook.
yes,
And one of your concerns was that the defense was all going to be going for the quarterback, right?
Yeah.
But he's not standing in the open.
he's protected by players behind him, pushing him forward. He's in the center, pull back.
He's protected by his offensive line, right?
Yes,
The job to protect the quarterback.
yes,
And there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of them all doing that job, right?
right,
To push the defense out of the way.
right,
Because the goal of the play is to gain a short yard
yes,
in short yardage situations.
yes,
3 feet.
Yeah.
Goal of the play is to get a first down, right?
that's right.
And we're not just running the line, we're pushing forward,
Yes,
and we're going through a gap, correct?
yes,
Now, coach, you know that injuries aren't unique to the quarterback push, right?
that's right.
And in all your years around the game, you've seen quarterbacks get hurt on plenty of other plays, right?
I have,
Sometimes really seriously.
sometimes.
You know that quarterbacks don't only pass the ball.
Yeah,
Sometimes they run it.
sometimes.
There's no rule that says that multiple defenders aren't allowed to tackle a player at the same time.
Right, there's no rules for defenders.
And if the quarterback is the ball carrier, multiple players tackle at the same time, it's not a penalty.
No,
It's football, right, coach?
it is football. That company direct consultant.
Yes, Your Honor. Opposing counsel just talked to you a lot about who you did not voice your concerns to. Who did you voice your concerns to?
Jackie Powell, the head coach, she was in charge of all the decisions on the plays.
Did the head coach voice any safety concerns?
No, in fact, she said that anyone who thought the play was unsafe is just jealous.
Was the head coach over the Klein freshman football team for 2024?
Yes, she was.
After the head coach made the call to run her version of the tush push, what happened to her?
He was paralyzed.
Nothing further for the witness this time, Your Honor. May this witness be excused.
Yes, thank you for your testimony.
Your Honor, at this time, before plaintiff calls their next witness, plaintiff would like to read stipulations 3 and 4 to the jury.
Okay, I'm assuming you talked with the council about that. There's stipulations, so. the
Yes.
jury- you hear about that.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, go ahead, whenever you're ready.
Every state's high school football league had adopted the NFHS football rulebook for the 2024-2025 season, except for Pennsylvania and Texas. On May 8th, 2024, the Pennsylvania Athletic Association, which governs all high school sports in Pennsylvania, adopted NFHS football rule 9-1, which says an offensive player shall not push, pull, or lift the runner to assist his forward progress. The rule would be effective in the Pennsylvania Athletic Association as of the 2025-2026 football season.
Okay, does the have any other evidence?
Yes, Your Honor. County calls Dr. Kensington Carr. To prepare the well before we begin.
Go right ahead. Dr. Crowder, you-
Good morning. Please introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Dr. Kensington Cotter.
What do you do for a living?
Well, I am the acting physician in sports medicine. I also work with the UCLA sports teams. On top of that, I am a professor at UCLA School of Medicine where I teach musculoskeletal and sports medicine.
What sports team do you work with at UCLA?
Their athletics department, so football players primarily.
How often do you work there?
I work there about once a week.
Where did you go to school, Dr. Cotter?
So I graduated with my BS in biology from UC Berkeley, and then from there I got my medical doctorate from UCLA's Data School of Medicine.
Have you ever been certified by any board in your field?
Yeah, so I'm certified in family medicine, and I also have an additional qualification in sports medicine.
Are you a member of any professional organizations?
I'm a member of the American Medical Society for Sports Medicine, the American College of Sports Medicine, as well as the American Academy of Family Physicians.
Have you ever been recognized for your work?
I have. I was recognized as the top sports physician by the Los Angeles Magazine from 2022 to 2020.
So what brings you here today, Dr. Cotter?
Well, I was retained to evaluate the QB sneak push in Klein High School's conduct as it relates to the standards and principles in sports medicine.
Are you being paid for your time here today?
Yes.
How much?
I believe it's about $500 an hour.
Now, I want to talk a little bit about your opinions, but before we get to them, did you apply reliable principles and methods in order to form those opinions?
Yes, ma'am.
And are those reliable principles and methods ones that other people in your field would rely upon?
Of course.
Did you base your opinions on sufficient facts and data?
Yes.
And are all your opinions today formed to a reasonable degree of medical certainty?
Yes, they are.
Contenders, Dr. Cotter is an expert in sports medicine.
And you've been for 1 year.
1 year, Your Honor.
You can proceed.
Morning, doctor. Just testified that you work primarily with football players at UCLA.
I work in athletics departments. I do work with football players here and there.
Let's not, you don't primarily work with football players.
I work in the athletics department.
You work with other sports teams, including women's basketball,
Yes,
not primarily with football.
I guess so.
And doctor, you're not a neurosurgeon.
No, I didn't plan to be.
And when you have any issues relating to the spine that are too advanced for you, you have to send them all to a neurosurgeon.
Of course I do, just to make sure that those patients are being properly cared for.
And when you work with UCLA players, you're primarily working obviously with adults, right?
Yes,
And only 10% of your practice actually works with children.
that's true.
Thank you. No further questions.
Any argument based on that?
No, Your Honor. Now, I want to talk to you about the opinions that you mentioned you had of the case. One of them being the safety of the quarterback push. How are you familiar with this kind of play?
Well, outside of being a football fan, personal life, like I mentioned earlier, I'm a sports medicine physician, so my life revolves around sports medicine, and I've worked with football players before. But beyond that, I also authored a publication about the QB sneak push from the physician.
Give us a general overview of the quarterback sneak push.
Yeah, so it's an offensive play, and it starts whenever the quarterback takes the snap, and from there he's actually propelled forward by his teammates in order to gain a yard or two.
Are there any other names or nicknames for the quarterback sneak push?
Yes, I believe here in Philadelphia, you guys would primarily refer to it as the tush push.
In your opinion, Dr. Cotter, is the tush push safe?
No.
Why do you say that?
Well, because the tush push is a known mechanism for injury, especially in quarterbacks.
Why do you say especially in quarterbacks?
Well, the way that the play starts is crouching, and his face and his chest is upward and forward, which means his cervical spine is just like flexed. And from there, he's not only getting the pressure applied to his spine from his teammates pushing him forward, but he's also getting forward pressure from his opposing teams pushing into him from the front and the sides of him. And that leads to significant compression of the spinal cord.
When you say significant compression on the spinal cord, what do you mean by that?
Well, pressure like this can lead to other types of spinal cord injuries. When you have a lot of impact on that spinal cord, like what you would get with QB sneak push, it's a known mechanism for.
Were you here earlier when Coach Al Clooney talked about Marie Newbern?
Yes, ma'am.
How big, size-wise, was Marie Newbern at the time he was running this play?
Well, Marie Newbrands was about 5'2" and 109 pounds.
How old was Marie when he was running the quarterback sneak push?
He was only 14.
How did Marie being 14, him being 5'2", 109, affect your opinion about the safety of the quarterback sneak push?
Well, starting with that he was only 14, he was really young. And when you have young players running plays like this, you have to expect that there's going to be some issues because young players just don't have the coaching that they need to run advanced plays. Additionally, when you're that young, your vertebrae is not completely developed. And now for his height and his weight, when you have size mismatches like that, that increases the risk of injury, especially when you have pileups.
Were there any other quarterbacks on the roster for freshman football at Cumberland?
Yes, there were 2 other quarterbacks.
You know their height and size?
I believe one of them was about 5'9" and 160 pounds. The other was 5'6" and 125 pounds.
Now, given all of that, were you still concerned with the modifications that Coach Jackie Powell made?
Yes, I was.
Let's talk about the second opinion that you were asked to form based on this case, which was the client's conduct and whether or not that had a contribution on Marie's injuries. What was your opinion regarding client's conduct?
Well, I believe that they should not have run the play, especially the modified version of the play, because it increased Marie's chance of injury.
Would you recognize a picture of an NFL team running the tush push version?
Absolutely.
Approaching Dr. Carter with what has been pre-marked for identification purposes as Exhibit 8A and 8B. Dr. Carter, I'm handing you Exhibit 8A.
Your Honor, just permission to see you. Yeah, like I said, you don't have to ask, just move yourself around. That's it.
Handing you Exhibit 8A and handing you Exhibit 8B. What are these photos?
So Exhibit 8A looks to be a still shot of the QB sneak push before the ball is snapped. And then Exhibit 8B appears to also be a still shot of the QB sneak push, but at the ball snapped.
And per housekeeping rulings, Exhibit 8A and 8B are already in evidence, but permission for Dr. Carter to come off the stand and better demonstrate these three.
Granted.
We just talked about how these are photos of the Philadelphia Eagles running the play. Can you demonstrate or describe how Jalen Hurts, their quarterback, is positioned in the play?
Yeah, absolutely. So Jalen Hurts, the quarterback, is right here. And as you can see, his body position is with his chest and his head upright and forward.
Exhibit 8B, what is different about that photo of the Philadelphia Eagles running the play?
Well, Jalen Hurts is right there. And as you can see, not much is different besides the fact that this is after the ball is snapped, so they're running towards the line of scrimmage. Here you can still see that Jalen Hurts has his chest and his head upright as he goes towards that line of scrimmage.
Approaching Dr. Cotter with what has also been pre-admitted today as Exhibit 7. Dr. Cotter, I'm going to hand you Exhibit 7 and I'm going to take Exhibit 8B. Can you demonstrate using Exhibit 7 how his spine was looking when he was running this play?
Yeah, absolutely. So like I said, when looking at Exhibit 8B, you can see that his head and his chest is upright, so he would have been running the play like this.
Now, using Exhibit 7 still, you show the jury how Marie Nuberance was positioned when he was running the tush push that Jackie Powell modified.
Yeah. So unlike how the Eagles had it when he was running it like this, Coach Powell and Klein's coaching staff actually instructed Marik to run with his chest and his head parallel to the ground, so it looked like this.
On the backside of Marik's spine,
Word.
on the front side of Marik's spine, what was in front of him?
The center's back and then the opposing teams.
How does this position affect your opinion about Klein's conduct?
Well, I mean, if you look at the positioning of this, it's clear that Marik wasn't able to really see what was going on in front of him because his head was down, which then diminished his ability to protect himself and increased his ability or increased his chance of injury.
Thank you, Dr. Cotter. You may retake your seat. You just mentioned that that type of position would increase Marik's injury or the rate of injury. What was Marik's injury?
So Marik suffered a cervical spinal cord injury, which was caused by his C4 shattering into a few pieces. And this ultimately resulted in quadriplegia.
For those of us who may not understand, what is quadriplegia?
It's essentially paralysis of all four limbs. You lose all motor functions in your limbs.
No further questions.
Okay, cross-examination.
Yes, Your Honor. Your Honor, permission to approach witness with Exhibit 17. Doctor, this is the article you just talked about on Direct.
Yes.
One page.
Yeah.
There's no back to it.
No.
Doctor, these are your theories.
This is the article that I published on the QBT or on the tush push, yes.
Your theories about the tush push.
Yeah,
Work in a university,
I do.
you certainly have access to a library.
Of course.
But doctor, in this article, you don't cite a single medical source.
No,
You don't cite a single scholarly source.
no,
You don't cite a single source.
no, these are just my theories.
Yes, your theories that you have published.
Yeah.
And to your knowledge, it wasn't published anywhere besides a medical journal.
Not that I'm aware of.
It certainly wasn't sent out to freshman football coaches in Pennsylvania,
Not that I'm aware of.
because there's no rule that says freshman football coaches have to read medical journals, right?
Well, not that I'm aware of, but I wouldn't know about that.
Yes, you wouldn't know about that, doctor. In this article, you talk about spinal injuries.
Yes.
And just to be clear, on Direct, you said the quarterback push is a known injury mechanism, especially in quarterbacks, right?
Yes, it can cause injury to quarterbacks, yes.
Doctor, in this article, there's not a single injury to any quarterback that has ever been done on the push.
It contained in this article?
Yes.
No.
And doctor, you also said that the push was a known mechanism for paralysis.
It can lead to paralysis because of the axial loading, yes.
But in this article, you never cite a single player that had ever been paralyzed.
No,
Because doctor, football injuries can happen on other plays.
yeah, they can,
Paralysis can happen on other plays.
of course.
Paralysis didn't happen at the time you wrote this article on any tush-push play.
No, at this time, the play had only been run for like 2 years.
And unfortunately, you looked for others where it happened besides in this case, right?
I did some research.
Well, in your research, you didn't find any.
No reported injuries associated with it now.
You also said on direct examination, doctor, young players don't have coaching, and that's a part of the reason why it's unsafe for young players to do the tush-push.
They don't have sufficient coaching because they're younger.
But doctor, you'd agree that Klein High School made sure that Murray was medically cleared for football by a doctor,
Oh, yeah, of course.
that he had the proper equipment,
Yes,
he had a helmet,
yes,
shoulder pads,
of course.
just like in the NFL.
I would hope so, yes.
He didn't have one coach.
No.
He didn't have two coaches.
No,
He had three coaches on the freshman football team.
yes,
And they practiced not once a week,
no,
not twice a week.
No.
3 to 4 times a week over the summer,
yes.
running that play.
This specific play,
The tush-push play,
I believe they started practicing it in August.
yes, but they were running it over the summer, doctor.
I believe they started practicing it in August.
You read Dr. Adams' report.
Yes,
So you know that Dr. Adams consults on biomechanical injury causation.
yes,
Put simply, that's the study of how force impacts the human body, like the spine.
yes.
It's nowhere on your resume, doctor.
No, it's not.
You do know about one thing that Klein coaches did receive, right?
What do you mean?
Well, it wasn't your article. They received an email about the tush-push play, right?
I reviewed that, yes.
An email that said the play would be safe for the entire 2024 season.
It said that it wasn't being banned for the 2024 season because it was going into effect the next season.
Yes, doctor, which means it would be allowed for the whole season.
Yes.
It didn't say that there were any risks associated with the play.
Not that I'm aware of in the email now.
It didn't say stop this play immediately, it's dangerous.
No,
It didn't say a single thing about why the play was going to eventually be banned.
no, but in my review of the case, I did review something that said that it was banned for, competitive balance as well as injury reasons.
Doctor, I understand that's what you reviewed. I'm talking about what Klein coaches actually knew at the time the play was being run. And that was nothing about risks of injury.
That's true.
Thank you, doctor. No further questions.
Before we go to redirect, I believe something's wrong with the Zoom, so give me just a second. Any redirect?
Yes, Your Honor. Dr. Carter, we just heard how there was no quarterback injury related to the tush push. But who became the first quarterback to have a spinal injury related?
Objection, Your Honor. Ask and answer all correct.
Can you repeat the question for me?
I was asking who became the first quarterback to have a spinal injury, which was not asked on direct examination. And is within the scope of cross-examination.
I mean, for the lack of I don't remember this coming out of direct, so I'm gonna go for that.
I'm gonna ask my question again, Dr. Cotter. Who became the first quarterback to suffer a spinal injury due to this play?
Mercury.
Was Jackie Powell's version of the tush push run anywhere else?
No, they were the first team to run that version of it.
No further questions, Your Honor. May this witness be excused?
Yes, you may. Thank you, Dr. Cotter.
Moment to move Exhibit 7 as well on the plaintiff's counsel's table.
Okay, does the plaintiff have any other evidence or witnesses?
Yes, Your Honor. Plaintiff called Marie numerance by deposition, and we provided opposing counsel with lines and numbers in meeting consent.
Okay, and I'm assuming you had no objection to those lines and numbers.
Objection, Your Honor.
All right, great. You can go ahead and read those to the members of the jury.
Permission for my co-counsel to take the stand and answer questions as I read them aloud.
Granted.
When did you first learn that the PAA adopted a rule banning the QB snake push in May 2024 to take effect in the 2025-2026 season?
When this lawsuit was filed.
Tell the jury everything Coach Powell told you to do on August 20th when you practiced the quarterback sneak push.
Coach Powell showed me a picture of Jalen Hurts and said I should be much lower, knees bent, with my face and torso parallel to the ground.
How did you feel after you ran the play at practice on August 20th?
I was getting drilled on my back. It hurt. I did not say anything to Coach Powell. Coach Powell always says every week is grit week. The best players play through injuries.
What happened when you practiced the quarterback sneak push on September 9th?
I ran the play just like Coach Powell told me. I felt multiple players hit me on my neck and back. I felt a jolt down my spine like an explosion. I could not move my arms or legs. Our trainer and coaches rushed the field, and an ambulance took me to the hospital.
Any further questions, Your Honor? May my co-counsel come down?
Anything else for the plaintiff?
No, Your Honor. Plaintiff rests their case in chief.
Okay. Before defense counsel opens their case in chief, if they have one, are there any motions?
Yes, Your Honor. Defense makes a motion for a judgment as a matter of law under Rule 50. Even when viewed in the light most favorable to the plaintiff, no reasonable juror could conclude that Klein breached any duty of care to Marie Navarrete. Heard that these types of injuries are an unfortunate reality of the game, and that no injury had ever occurred on this flag before he was injured. No reasonable juror could conclude, based on the evidence that we've heard today, that Klein breached his duty in any way by calling a play that no one had been hurt on.
Response.
Your Honor, plaintiff has submitted substantial evidence to the jury that Thomas R. Klein was negligent and that their negligence substantially caused Rick Newbern's injuries. The play at hand is a one-of-a-kind play that has never been played in the game of football. Also, we have submitted through Al Clooney that he put Thomas R. Klein on notice that this play was unsafe, and Klein had to run the play anyway. Dr. Kensington Cotter, our expert, has told you that this play was safe and was especially unsafe for children to run as opposed to NFL players. This goes to reasonableness, negligence, and it shows how, because of Klein's negligence, Marie suffered a spinal cord injury. So plaintiff has submitted substantial evidence to this jury for this case to continue, and defense's motion should be denied.
Response, you'll have the last word.
Your Honor, we rest on those points. There's been simply no indication that even when we heard from Coach Clooney, that there were actually concerns there. The actions speak louder than the words, and Coach Clooney was watching the play run and didn't have any more worries about it. The play had no injury history. The game has a huge one. We ask for a judgment as a matter of law.
Okay, thank you both for your arguments. I'm going to respectfully deny the motion at this time. I do believe there's sufficient evidence for this to proceed to jury. Would we like a break before we proceed?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, Your Honor.
I will give you until 10:15.
Thank you, Your Honor.
We get a time check.
Hey,
That's wonderful.
Plaintiff has 29-42. Okay, defense has 43-14.
Perfect.
thank you.
Thank you so much.
Delaware now. You work in the village. I don't. living DC. It was one of my friends is a coach for that, so I was visiting this weekend, so she looped me in judging for the morning. What do you do? Do you want? Yeah. No, so I graduated from law school, last spring, so, yeah, yeah, well. Yeah, you see that, but it's. Thank you, yeah. Yeah, yeah, it was tough, but so far, so good. What are you doing, Billy? Okay. That's what I want. To law school across the river. Okay. Thanks. My one of my. Okay, but thinking of that clerkship and then even when to back it later. But yeah, and I I'm sure. Okay. Yeah, nice. What division at the TA? I guess. Positions. Well, I guess there's the position, trial division, sub trial division. Okay. I'm in the not working. Nice. Everything starts out in like this. Okay. And after the search is and then I June 40 and then the waivers unit. Okay. To where you go after state basically split between that of both like trial. Thanks. One of my good friends is a DA in the Bronx. So I always hear about her experience. My condolences. Yeah, yeah. I judged a competition over at 10 back in March and one of the people I was heading to Bronx TAs and they yeah, yeah. It's tough, but she seems to overall like it. Yeah. I could be organizing pay on it, so. That would give me very.
Yes, I do.
What's that?
Marshall.
Please table
Yeah, much,
I'm on like big yellow cases that won't go to trial for like 10 years. Yeah, exactly. So no, and we're all in discovery, so no, like very early stages of discovery, so no depositions either. Absolutely. But still, I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, you can 90%. That's basically the three.
Yeah, yeah.
They're, I mean, the ones that do it, previously. Especially for you, but you're. I can't spoil this guy.
Jones say.
Oh.
The say like specifically about it's like gets off mornings, gets off from 9:30.
Yeah, it's like, yeah.
I don't know. I didn't fit in. And then We'll go, we'll have dinner at the park or another. That's like fine. Either way, I guess.
Fourth grade.
Okay.
Let's just say, anyone else?
Yeah. It's like a doctor. And then like increase.
I love kids.
Discovery of shit. That's, yeah.
That's what she's get it.
Yeah.
So it's the same spot. I'm so sorry. You don't witness it. Thanks.
Yeah.
Alright, I think we have just about everything. So it's time. We're gonna go ahead with the defense case and chief.
Your Honor, the defense calls Coach Jackie Powell to stand. Good morning. Would you please introduce yourself to the members of the jury?
Good morning. My name is Jackie Powell.
Coach, we've heard that you had the ultimate responsibility for the call where Marie was hurt. Why was the play drawn up that way?
For two reasons, because we thought it would be safer that way and for strategy.
When you drew it up, did you have any reason to believe that the push was particularly dangerous?
No,
I want the jury to get a feel for your time around the game. How long have you been around football?
all the time, watch film with him all the time. I just really developed a passion for it.
So how long have you been a coach yourself?
I've been coaching for a really long time since I got out of high school.
At Klein, are you a full-time coach?
I do coach at Cumberland, but I also teach history there too.
How did the freshman team get its playbook?
So all of the teams on the Klein at the Klein school from JV to varsity run generally the same plays, but we're also allowed to come up with our own plays.
Based on all your years around the game, how safe is football for physical athletes?
Football is a dangerous sport, no matter how careful you are.
Now, we've heard that the play originated in the NFL, Eagles. Why would you run it with your team?
Because we wanted to be able to gain yardage in short yard situations, but also because we thought it was safe. No one had ever had any serious injuries from running that play.
As far as football plays go, what are the differences between the levels? NFL, college, high school?
So generally all of the from Pee Wee to NFL, they're all running the same kinds of plays.
As of 2024, when you drew this up, how many injuries were you aware of on the tush push?
Wasn't aware of any injuries.
Oh, how many times did you see him run?
Dozens at least, but probably hundreds of times.
No. We know that this case is about a serious back injury. What did you know about those before today?
Well, I have actually been in a car crash. I had to get surgery myself on my
Who treated you for that?
Dr. Omega Adams.
Who were they?
My friend.
No. I'd like the jury to get a look at the actual play. Your Honor, got exhibit 9 here, which has been pre-admitted. Permission to have coach step down so that they can explain their testimony and permission to have full counsel. I'll play the video.
Granted.
We all say okay? Yeah. So Coach, would you tell the jury what we're looking at here in the opening frame of exhibit 9?
Sure, so this is the setup for running the QB sneak push. So you have the Chiefs and the Eagles on offense.
Eagles on offense and the Chiefs are playing.
Defense.
All right. Now, would you identify the quarterback in this play for the members of the jury?
Sure, the quarterback is right here. That's Jalen Hurts, right behind the center.
For the record, coach has identified Jalen Hurts as the player right behind the center. Now, we're going to play the video and we're going to talk about it a little bit. So, the ball snap, what do we see?
You can see that Jalen Hurts is immediately met at the top of the pile by other defenders on the Chiefs.
What's the result of the play?
They are able to gain a yard.
Injuries that you can see?
No.
Thank you, Coach. You can retake your seat. Thank you. So why did you have your team run it differently than the Eagles?
Because Jalen Hurts is much bigger, stronger than, our high school players. So we wanted to change it so that the players would be safe, more safe, and they wouldn't be met at the top of the pile by defenders.
We've heard that the play was still allowed in 2024. What information do you have about the PAA's view on the play for the next season?
Sure. So we got an email from the athletic directors that the PAA was going to ban the play, but for the next season.
Did that email include anything about safety risks associated with the play?
No, it just said that the players weren't allowed to push, pull, or lift anybody in assisting the runners to gain forward progress.
At that point, did you have any reason to believe that the push was dangerous for high school athletes?
No.
At that point, had you ever heard in all the times that you'd seen this play of a single quarterback injured at any level of the game, NFL, college, high school?
No.
Now, Coach, how was the team doing in the seasons prior to 2024?
Not well. Our win-loss record was pretty bad.
How'd you feel about your job security as a coach?
Not great. Coaches are hired to get fired, especially when they're not producing wins.
Would that have meant that you were simply unemployed?
No, I was still a history teacher at the school. Just my job coaching might have been on the line.
No. Coach, what did every player on your team need to have before they were even allowed on the field?
They had to have medical clearance from their doctors.
Your Honor, showing opposing counsel would have been pre-admitted as Exhibit 2. May I approach?
Yeah.
Coach, directing your attention to paragraph titled medical clearance. Did Marique have clearance to play football?
Yes.
And why was he chosen as the starting quarterback?
Well, just like you heard from Anthony this morning, he was a really good quarterback. He was a really good option. He had a great arm. He was a really good player.
Yeah. We've heard that Klein only practiced the play a few times. How complicated of a play is the tush push?
It's not complicated at all. It's pretty easy.
Yeah. When you did practice it on August 20th, did you tell the jury what you saw?
Sure. The play ran exactly how we wanted it to. The offense was able to gain the yards they needed. The kids were really happy with Marie. They were smiling, calling him in Hurts. It was running exactly how we wanted.
All the way up until the day of Marie's injury, did you have any reason to believe that the tush push was more dangerous than other football plays?
No.
Thank you, Coach. No further questions. Can I call up the exhibit?
You bet. Cross-examination,
Yes, Your Honor.
everybody.
You believe in tough love.
Absolutely.
Because as head coach, you are turning boys into men.
Yes,
The world is not going to go easy on them,
that's right.
so you should not either.
Right.
After all, you just want to win, Coach Powell.
I do want to win. Yes,
To be clear, Klein and I have been doing a lot of winning before the 2024 season.
that's right.
You have been the head coach at Klein since 2022.
Right.
Your record was not great.
That's right.
In your first 2 seasons, you had a combined total of 2 wins.
Yes.
You had a combined total of 18 losses.
Yes.
So going into that 3rd season, you started to feel some pressure.
Yes.
You even felt like you could lose your job.
My coaching job.
So you knew that 1 win a season was not.
Sure.
Now, you love football. You especially love the Philadelphia Eagles.
Go Eagles.
So you have seen them run the tush push before.
A lot of times. Yes.
Maybe 100 times.
Yes.
Somehow that is why you thought it was safe for your freshman football team to run it.
Yeah. No one got hurt.
Now, you talked about injury on direct. I want to go back to what you said on direct. Your also talked to you a lot about injuries. The play you came up with for the Klein freshman football team has never been run before.
I'm sorry. I'm not sure I understand.
The play that you designed for your football team to run has never been run before.
Well, the tush push has been run, but we did a modification to make it safer for kids.
Right. Your version has never been run before.
That's right.
Right. When you decided to come up with your version, you came up with it, right?
Right.
You have the final say.
Yes.
Let's keep talking about tush push. You know what the NFHS is.
Yes.
You know that the NFHS banned the tush push in May of 2024.
Yes.
2 months later, in July, you incorporated that play into your playbook.
Right. The National Football League doesn't control only Pennsylvania. At that point, the Pennsylvania League still said it was safe for us to run.
It was not banned yet.
Right.
You still have 1 more year to run it.
Yes.
So you chose to run it.
I did.
Now, when you are running this play and you're in your capacity as head coach, you have other coaches around you to help, right?
That's right.
You have other coaches like Al Clooney.
Right.
You have athletic trainers.
Right.
You even have an athletic director you report to.
I have an athletic director. Yes.
Klein's athletic director was Mr. Al.
Right.
In 2021, Mr. Caroline sent you an email.
Yes.
After you received that email, you were told to run all of your tush push drills through the athletic trainers.
Objection, Your Honor, it's a misstatement of evidence.
Your Honor, the email is not into evidence, but in the email, if I'm proper, the email clearly says at the top that Albert Caroline told Coach Powell to run drills through the athletic trainer, all drills through the athletic trainers.
Your Honor, would you like a copy so that you can see the
Yeah.
words?
I see what we're talking. Council, remind me what the question was again.
After receiving the email from Albert Caroline in 2021, you were told to run all of your drills through the athletic trainers. Your Honor, may I-
Your Honor, respectfully, with all of your tush push drills throughout the part that we take issue with.
Your Honor, in the email, it says all drills. So that encompasses any drill that Coach Powell had to run for that season.
Right, so was your understanding the question that she asked, run all your tush push drills through the athletic director?
Yeah, that's misleading for the jury. The
Your Honor,
jury needs to hear what the words were. We're gonna do that, but we've also already agreed pre-trial to exclude Exhibit 4. We understand that it can be inquired into, and we agreed with counsel prior to trial about that. We just want to be sure that we're getting the words right, as to avoid misleading the jury.
Okay, so it sounds like our resolution here is to rephrase the question. And because you did already say it, so maybe you just spoke, I don't remember exactly what you said on the record, but if you asked just about what. Running all through the athletic, I think that solves our issue. Fair?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, Your Honor.
So kind of sustained, kind of.
Understood.
After receiving, you received an email in 2021. After receiving that email, you were told to run all drills through the athletic trainers.
That's right.
Coach Powell, you ran drills, right?
Yes.
You did not run any of your tush push drills through that picture.
No,
You did not run any of your tush push drills through the athletic director.
no,
You did not run your tush push drills through anyone.
no, I'm the head coach.
Right. You are the head coach. So you made the decision to not run them through anyone.
I made the decision to run them, yes.
I want to go into what you said earlier on your direct. You watched the NFL tush push on TV.
Yes,
We all just watched the NFL tush push right here in court, right?
yes,
Carl, you did not run your tush push like how we just saw.
no,
You modified the play
that's right,
because of Marique's size.
right,
Marique was 5'2".
yes,
He was 109 pounds.
yes,
Coach Bell, you had two other quarterbacks, right?
that's right,
One was 5'8", 145 pounds.
right,
The other was 5'9", 160 pounds.
right,
Both larger than Marie.
yes,
So, like you said, you're the head coach and you get the decision. You decided to have the smallest of your quarterbacks run that play.
yes, that's why we modified it, so we wouldn't be met at the top of the pile by as many defenders.
Let's talk about those modifications. Because of Marie's size, you had 3 players pushing Marie instead of 2.
Right,
Just like how we saw in that video.
yes,
You had Marie get completely parallel to the ground
that's right,
with his chest flat,
right,
head down,
right,
because you wanted his body like a spear
yes, that's coaching talk, but yes.
instead of having his body upright.
Yes, so we wouldn't be hit by as many defenders.
That's not how we saw that video, was it, Coach Powell?
Right, NFL, we run it differently.
You also, because of Marie's size, had Marie staring at the center's back, right?
Yes,
And you had him doing that instead of facing directly forward.
right,
With nothing like how Jalen Hurts is rated on that video.
right,
Coach Powell, you have never seen any team in the history of the game run the tush push how you chose to run it.
that's right,
No varsity team,
right,
no college team,
right,
no professional team.
yes,
Yet you still sit here and tell all of us that the play you designed was safe for 14-year-old children.
yes. 14-year-old children shouldn't be hit by as many defenders. That's why we wanted Marique down toward the bottom, so they wouldn't be piling on top.
14-year-old children look nothing like how they did in that video.
No,
Nothing further than what we just showed.
Does that prompt any redirect?
No, it does not, Your Honor. We just asked the witness to be excused.
No. This is from the defense.
Yes, Your Honor, we called Dr. Omega Adams to the stand. Your Honor, before we proceed, can we please discuss a motion that you had held under advisement earlier pertaining to Dr. Adams' ability to speak certain things in her report?
Sure. Would you like to re-argue or would you like me to just specify my rule on that?
Your Honor, we'd like to re-argue because we believe the door has now been opened for Dr. Adams to place opinion based on the plaintiff's case.
Okay, tell me what specifically in their case open that door.
Your Honor, earlier, Dr. Cotter elicited an opinion about the risks associated with the tush push play and that it was riskier than other plays. We would like to now ask Dr. Adams to give her expert opinion on the safety of this play compared to other ones because of the way the spine is positioned in football. We actually saw Dr. Cotter hold up the spine and show it compared to other plays. We want Dr. Adams to be able to discuss how the spine is actually in that position of other plays in football, which could have been called instead of the tush push.
Okay, so this is based on the testimony she's heard in the courtroom today.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, your response.
Yes, Your Honor. Again, this is not an objection to Omega Adams' qualifications in neurosurgery. The objection was based on the fact that she has no experience, knowledge, or basis with the sport of football outside of watching it on television on Saturday as a football fan. The difference here and why Dr. Cotter is entitled under 702 qualifications and bases to give an opinion about a football play and other plays in football is because she works in UCLA athletics and spends 1 day a week with the football team, helping them run plays and is at their watching plays in comparison to other plays that they run. She has the requisite knowledge and experience under 702 to testify about safety of general football plays because she has been more involved with them than watching them as bystander through a television screen. That is the basis of all of our objections to Omega Adams, eliciting opinions about the sport of football, whether it be the reasonableness of what a head coach would do before running a play, or whether it be the quarterback sneak push is the safest play of all in football. Both of those are rooted in football knowledge that is only supposed to be tendered to people who have the requisite qualifications under 702. The door is not open because a qualified expert gave an opinion that she has rooted medical knowledge and bases to testify to. This expert does not have that.
Your Honor, may I briefly respond? Just to clarify, we're not going to be eliciting any testimony about what reasonable coaches would have done in terms of research on our issue. Our issue is specifically in the report. I can hand you a copy of Omega Adams' report that would help specifically about the safety of the football play, the tush push. And actually, there was factual statements by opposing counsel just now. This expert has specific experience with football injuries, and we will elicit information that she's operated on 9 football injuries that came from football plays. Your Honor, further, this expert should be allowed to respond to Dr. Cotter's positioning of the spine, which they said was inherently more risky on the tush push to establish that that spine is in that position on numerous other football plays, which goes to the reasonable circumstances directly in this case, which she's qualified to do.
May I be heard, Your Honor, on those two new points that were just addressed? First of all, I would like to clarify that again, Dr. Cotter cannot testify to intricacies of spinal surgery because again, that is not her qualification. That is something that a neurologist would testify to. As Dr. Omega Adams is, I would proffer going to do on direct examination. That did not give her the basis to come up here because we knew Dr. Omega Adams was going to testify in neurosurgery to rebut any evidence. That is not the standard. The standard is that experts are to testify within their qualifications, experience, and knowledge. And again, to proffer to what defense counsel just stated about her surgeries, in Dr. Omega Adams' 20 years of being a neurosurgeon, which now she only works 1 day a week because she spends the rest of her time consulting for defense teams, I would like to add that in those 20 years, she's only operated on 9 football players, and Dr. Omega Adams cannot tell us what position they played, what play they were running when they got injured, or the nature of the spinal injury, besides the fact that it needed surgery. That is not enough knowledge about the sport of football to testify about the safety of every other play in the sport, as she elicits verbatim in her opinion.
Okay, so the only point of contention here is Dr. Adams comparing the tush push to other football plays, correct?
Yes.
So there's no issue with her saying anything about how the spine is positioned during the tush push. There's no issue with her saying how the spine can be affected by football plays. It is simply the comparison that you have.
Yes, Your Honor. Yes, Your Honor. That's an improper opinion.
And it's based on the fact that she doesn't have football knowledge.
Yes, Your Honor.
Your Honor, may I briefly clarify? We're just going to be asking Dr. Omega Adams about the safety of the position relative to the way the spine is actually positioned. We're not talking about play design or any other plays. We're going to be asking her about the way the spine is positioned in tush push and whether that's actually safer than other plays. That's exactly the scenario.
Right, and that's exactly what plaintiff's counsel has a problem with, is you saying compared to another play, this is more or less safe. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to overrule the objection for now because I need to hear the foundation that's laid on what kind of football knowledge this witness has. And then depending on how that opinion comes out, you're free to renew your objection. I won't re-argue it, but I do need to hear what the foundation is before I determine whether or not the jury gets to decide the weight of that.
Yes, Your Honor, absolutely.
Yes, Your Honor. Good morning. Could you please introduce yourself to the jury?
Good morning, everyone. I'm Dr. Omega Adams.
Dr. Adams, what were you asked to do for this?
I was asked to look at the injuries that Marie suffered and see if the play that was called on September 9th put him at particular risk of being hurt.
You said you're a doctor. What kind of doctor are you?
I'm a medical doctor. Specifically, I'm a neurosurgeon. I operate on injuries to the nerves and the nervous system.
Do you have a specialty within neurosurgery?
Of course I do. I specialize with the spine. I've done 1,000 spinal operations, including fractures, and I do follow-up treatment.
Does that include the type of injury we saw in today's case?
Of course it does. I've done 9 football-specific spinal surgeries, and that involves things just like we've been hearing about all day to day, excuse me.
Now, doctor, how long have you been operating on spines?
I've been an attending neurosurgeon since 2008, so not to date myself, but I do have 20 years of clinical and surgical experience.
And after these 2 decades of experience, did you move on to another career?
Yes, after those 20 years, I actually transitioned to create my own practice. I now give expertise in cases that involve things like neurological risk and biomechanical injury causation.
Can you talk more about biomechanical injury causation?
Yeah, it's a long scientific phrase. It really just means how physical force impacts the body and how those forces can cause us injury.
Can you talk about consulting? How many cases have you consulted?
120.
And who have you consulted for in those cases?
The defense.
Just to be clear, doctor, do you still work with patients that have spinal injuries?
I do. I still work part-time as an attending neurosurgeon treating patients today. That's just something I couldn't give up.
What education did you receive to become a neurosurgeon?
I got my MD from the University of Alabama Birmingham School of Medicine all the way back in 2001. Before that, in 1996, I got my BS in biology from Stanford University.
And just to be clear, doctor, you said you perform spinal operations, but do you also help with treatment of people who have been injured with spinal injuries?
Of course I do. I do follow treatment of people that have spinal injuries and fractures.
Are you board certified?
Yes, I'm board certified by the American Board of Neurological Surgery. I'm also a fellow of that same board.
And are you familiar with law outside of obviously your practice working on people with injuries?
Yes, outside of my practice of operating on football-specific spinal injuries and just cervical spine injuries in general, I watch football every Sunday. I'm a big Alabama fan.
Now, doctor, were you able to come to an opinion regarding today's case?
I was.
I want to talk about how you formed that opinion. What materials did you rely on to do so?
I looked at all the exhibits, stipulations, depositions. I also reviewed the report of Dr. Cotter, plaintiff's doctor.
And did you have enough information to come to an opinion?
I did.
Are these materials typical for experts in your field to rely on?
They are.
Did you have reliable methodology you could use when looking over all these materials?
I did. I used the standard orthopedic and medical principles in my field, compared that to client's conduct, and then I applied my 20 years of clinical and surgical experience. That's what physicians in my field do.
Were you able to apply those principles and methods to the facts you looked at for this case when forming your opinion?
Yes.
Will all of your opinions be made to a reasonable degree of professional expertise?
Absolutely.
Your Honor, at this time, we offer Dr. Omega Adams as an expert in neurosurgery, spinal injuries, and biomechanical injury prevention.
Neurosurgery, spinal injuries, and biomechanical injury classification.
Yes, Your Honor.
Any objection to that tender or voir dire?
No objection to that qualification, Your Honor, as I'm sure we all understand at this point. Plaintiff's objection will only be to a specific portion of testimony if it is elicited.
She's so excited.
Doctor, we heard today discussions about the tush-push play and the spine. Can you talk about if that's safe medically, true or not?
Right. So medically, the tush push is actually one of the safest football plays there is. It's due to the
Objection, Your Honor.
To the same grounds as before.
Yes, Your Honor, plaintiff stands, and if permitted, I'd like to take the witness on voir dire.
Okay. At this point in time, I think I'm going to overrule that objection and allow her to give this opinion. The jury can decide what kind of weight to afford it based on the qualifications that I've already listed over.
Yes, Your Honor.
So overrule.
Just to ask the question again, we've heard testimony about the tush-push play being unsafe for the spine. Is that medically true?
No.
Why not?
In comparison to what Dr. Cotter said before, the tush push is actually one of the safest football plays there is. There's lower force, there's lower speed, and the positioning of the players. They start stationary and they push forward. They barely move.
Now, doctor, does anything about that analysis change when it comes to high school players like Dr. Cotter suggested earlier?
High school players aren't nearly as large, strong, or big and fast as NFL players, so it makes an already low impact play even lower impact because of their smaller sizes.
Does that mean it's actually safer for high school players to run the play?
It does.
Now, we also heard earlier about Dr. Cotter's general opinions in this case. You were here for that,
I
right?
was here for
Is there anything that Dr. Cotter didn't talk about in her analysis that you did in yours?
Yes, so I analyze speed as a factor to force. Of course, weight is part of that equation, and that's something we heard about today from Dr. Cotter. The other half of that equation is increasing speed. That's something they left out that I actually analyzed in my report.
Your Honor, permission to approach with Exhibit 7 for sort of purposes. So Dr. Adam, just to refresh, can you please show again where Marie was actually injured on the spine?
Yeah, so I'm gonna stand up. This is a little bit taller than me, but as a frame of reference, this is C2, right? Marie was injured at what we call C4 on the cervical spine. It protects our heads and our necks, so this is where Marie was injured.
And just to be clear, doctor, cervical spine injuries happen on other football plays like this.
They can occur on numerous other football plays.
How?
Anytime a player absorbs force to their head or their neck, it can result in a spinal injury. And that happens on simple plays like routine tackles.
Now, permission to approach the witness with Exhibit 6.
Go ahead.
I've just handed you a copy of Exhibit 6. Do you recognize this?
Yes.
What is it?
This is again a diagram of the spine.
Is it a fair and accurate diagram of spine?
It is.
Your Honor, at this time we offer Exhibit 6 into evidence.
Any objections?
No objection, Your Honor.
Okay, 6 is admitted.
Now, Dr. Adams, can you also just point out where the injury was on this exhibit?
Of course. So you can see up here that this is C4 right here. So if you look at the red region all the way up top, that's the cervical spine. What we're looking at right here, and a letter and number for C4 is listed, and that's where Marie was in.
Thank you, doctor. You can put that aside. Now, if you could please take the spine off of the exhibit. I just have a question. I have permission for the witness to step down for the jury.
Sure.
And doctor, can you please put the position we saw parallel like Dr. Cotter had
I
earlier?
believe it was like this.
Now, Dr. Adams, is this a position that the spine is typically in average football plays?
It is. It's actually really common for football players to lower their head and get low on other football plays. The risk is always going to be there because this happens all the time.
And is this similar to the technique that Coach Powell taught in Hernick?
Yes.
Thank you. You can put that back. Dr. Adams, in 2024, when this play was run, did you find any data showing that quarterbacks had been injured from that play
No, no injuries.
for the NFL,
No.
for college?
Injuries.
And just so the jury knows, were you able to find any high schools that were running the play?
I did. I found 2 Texas high schools that had been running the tush push since the 2023-2024 season.
Any injuries there?
No.
Thank you. No further questions. Permission to retrieve.
Yeah.
Cross examinations first of all.
Yes, ma'am.
Dr. Adams, you are a professional defense expert.
Don't agree with you on that one.
Well, as you just testified, you've been consulted 120 times.
Right, I have my own practice where I consult on cases that involve injuries to neurological risk and biomechanical injury causation. And of course, I do consult for the defense, but I don't call myself a professional defense expert.
Right, but you've only ever testified for the defense.
That's correct.
120 times, never for the plaintiff.
Right.
You were contacted by the defense in this case. That's true. Coach Jackie Powell works for the defendant in this case.
Yes.
Tom Darfon.
Correct.
Coach Jackie Powell coaches the freshman football team.
Right.
Where Frank Newman's was the star quarterback.
Right.
We heard earlier from Jackie Powell that you're his friend.
Yes, I completed a successful spinal operation on them back in 2019, and that's how I know that.
Thank you, Dr. Adams. You've also called Jackie Powell your good friend.
That's correct.
So you were hired by this defendant to evaluate your good friend's conduct.
It's the school's conduct, not specifically that person, but I do know that, yes.
Your good friend works there.
Yes.
And your opinion, as we just heard, is that your good friend's the conduct was all good. Let's talk about how you got here. You've never seen a football play being run in real life.
No.
You've never been a head football coach.
No.
You've never been an offensive coordinator.
No, I watched it every Sunday.
Right, as I'm sure most of us do here. You've never been a water girl.
No.
You've never called a play.
No.
You've never designed a play.
No.
But you're here to testify about the safety of this play compared to every other play in the sport.
Yes, because I did extensive research on the tush push being run and whether there was quarterback injuries or any other type of spine injury. I reviewed Dr. Cutter's report too that spoke about those same things. We both agreed that there's no injuries on this.
Let's talk about those injuries in that research. Coach Jackie Powell decided to run this play.
Right.
After he got an email about a ban.
Yeah, it was still legal for that entire season they were running.
Thank you, Dr. Adams, but I didn't ask you what was legal. I asked you this play is getting banned.
In the following year, that means so.
Coach Jackie Powell received that email.
So yes,
Coach Jackie Powell never looked to see why.
I don't believe so.
Coach Jackie Powell did not consult his athletic trainers.
I don't believe so.
Coach Jackie Powell did not consult his athletic director.
I don't think so.
Coach Jackie Powell did not even do a Google search about the tush push.
No.
Coach Jackie Powell, as we heard earlier, only saw it on TV.
Right, and as I heard today, they saw that there was no injuries that ever occurred on the tush push.
Well, actually, Dr. Adams, that's not true.
Objection, Your Honor. Allow my witness to finish what she's saying. She's answering the question.
Yeah, just give her a little bit of leeway there to finish her sentence.
I was just talking about what we heard today, and I heard that it was designed to make that even safer for the quarterback.
Right, but we haven't gotten to the modification yet. I want to talk about what you just said. There actually were 2 injuries with the tush push in the NFL, correct?
Yeah, not to the quarterback.
Right, but there was a sprained knee
Yeah,
and there was a shoulder injury.
yes,
Both of those were available to find on the internet.
right.
Coach Jackie Powell did a Google search about the injuries associated with tush push.
No, like I said.
He did nothing besides.
Right.
And we heard, you know, that play that we just saw is not the one that Coach Jackie Powell ran.
The same play, it's the exact same formation, it's the positioning of one player, so I won't agree on the whole play, but there was a slight difference in one player, yes.
Well, you've been in the courtroom the whole time today.
Of course,
You reviewed Exhibit 8A and come to your opinion in it.
I did.
You see there's 2 players pushing Jalen Hurts.
Yes,
You testified about Exhibit 3. There are 3 players pushing Rick Newbrands.
yes, I don't think I spoke about Exhibit 3, but that's true in Lakeland.
So that's modification number 1.
Sure, yeah,
You also know that Marie was parallel to the ground.
I know that,
Head down,
yes.
chest down.
Right.
Dr. Adams, he was like this.
Sure.
You know Marie was 14 years old.
Yes,
You know he was 5'2".
correct,
And as we just talked about, he was being pushed by 3 people
yes,
bigger than him in size.
right,
And there was a center directly in front of him.
I know that.
Where Marie was told to stare at the center's back.
I think so, yes,
Dr. Adams, you are a neurosurgeon.
right,
But your testimony is that Marie being in this position, pushed by 3 people, is safe.
yes, it wouldn't expose him to those hits over top like we saw today. And additionally, the center in front of him moves. It's not like that center stays still and he just runs into the person in front of him.
Thank you for that, Dr. Carter, but you know that that version of that play has never been run before.
Right.
Not in freshman football,
Correct.
not in college football,
Correct.
not even the professionals run it the way Jackie Powell created.
Right.
So the only that Jackie Powell ran this with this designed to make Marie safer. Marie's spine shattered.
I heard today that it was ran 4 times exactly the way that Coach Powell planned it, and there were no injuries.
Well, actually, in your review of the case, you would have read Jackie Powell's deposition,
Of course.
where Jackie Powell testified that the only time Marie ever got low enough, that was on September 9th.
I don't believe that's true.
You remember Jackie Powell saying that everyone ran the play exactly how they were supposed to on September?
Right, I remember that, but I also remember today sitting here that somebody said that on August 20th and September 5th, it was exactly ran as planned.
Thank you, Dr. Carter. So even with those safety modifications, when Rick did exactly what he was supposed to do, his spine shattered.
Yes.
No further questions, John.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Rosenbach. Does that prompt any?
Yes, Your Honor, briefly.
Right now.
Doctor, you were just asked about modifications to the tush push play.
Yeah.
Was it still generally the same exact play?
It was literally the same exact play, right? Instead of the 2 people, there were maybe 3 people behind him pushing him, but there were still the blockers that were coming at each other to protect the quarterback. And it was just the quarterback being moved down a few inches.
Were you able to do research about this play and the spinal positions that Marie was in?
Yes.
Did you find any data suggesting that those techniques and modifications done by Coach Powell increased the risk of injury compared to any other play in football?
No.
Thank you, doctor. No further questions. I just asked that this witness be excused.
Yep. Thank you for your testimony, Dr. Adams. Does defense have any other evidence?
No, Your Honor. At this time, the defense rests.
Right? For proceeding, are there any other motions for the court?
Your Honor, we renew our prior Rule 50 petition and we stand and rest on the same grounds.
Plaintiff, I'm assuming you will also.
Yes, Your Honor.
Prior arguments, fabulous. I am going to deny that motion yet again. We'll see this jury, would be like a break for closings.
Yes, Your Honor. Just a time check if possible as well.
Sure. Let's go until 11:05.
Plaintiff has 1631 and defense has 2652.
Thank you.
Okay. Very nice. I actually work in these.
Yeah.
Not wired.
So I would have to see if you played for class.
Oh, fun.
You're right, it's they would care.
Who'd be
that? My other person, right?
Oh, okay.
Because so I think did some college and hospital year was fun.
Like a return to.
Yeah. Commercial today slash.
Yeah.
It's my birthday, so.
I was gonna say how long.
Yeah.
So you're looking at it now?
Yes. Yeah. So far, so good.
Okay.
Yeah. It's good, it's good.
Yeah. Very confident, thank
I would like to.
I'll get one. Yeah.
So.
It's a lot of things.
And they would have.
I don't care. I feel like. Thank you.
Family.
No, I just.
So it's really anything that I'm proud of, go sorry, big stuff. And I feel like another thing, you may have to take a long stretch, but yeah, like, it's fine, you're like.
Everything. Yeah.
Okay, I mean, yeah, all the things, like, right, yeah. Yeah. That makes it like a statement, right?
Stay there. I'm gonna set the wall whenever we get.
Okay.
To repair the wall.
You're like, yeah. Feels like.
Hey, how are you? Hey, I'm very good. Let me make sure.
Yeah. Well, then you get something that works. But I was really.
I would not always be on time.
If you were not on the class, you're seeing it. And then I asked her. But now it's just like. So I. So. Yes. Whatever. And.
It was just. It's just that. But every day. I don't know what.
There is like a picture.
Okay.
Like me, it's like.
He holds out. Yes. That had been. You're also. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Thank you for all.
No, I rushed him out.
I would think that.
I.
Yes.
Feel like the night. Let's move on. I don't know the flexibility, so.
Back, are we ready to closings?
Yes, Your Honor.
Alright. And then whenever you're ready.
A moment to prepare the will.
Yeah.
And I would just like to ask if I could use the remainder of my time, whatever is left for the will.
Okay, you got a time back, reminding how much time?
15 minutes and 31 seconds for plaintiff, 26, 52, 30 minutes.
So hopefully we're not.
Perfect.
Planning to use all of it.
Might not want to say that before you get that.
You call a bad play. You get a bad ending. Heard from Coach Powell today about the 2 back-to-back loser seasons he had as a head football coach at Klein. We heard how he said his football coaching job was probably on the time. So going into that 2024 season, when he sees the Eagles running that tush push play, the one that we all watched earlier, he said, "That's it. That's my opportunity to put some wins on that scoreboard." He took it, knowing that the people he had at his disposal are not the players we just saw run that play. They were freshmen. 14-year-olds, 2 years away from being able to get their driver's people. "14-year-old, 5'2", 109-pound freshman." And they put him at the bottom of the pile. But before we go any further, I want to take a moment to clarify something. We heard a lot of talk from the defense today about how football is a violent contact sport. The plaintiff never once has tried to deny that because it is. Football is inherently dangerous. That's why there's safeguards in this. We heard earlier about the pads that they put on, the helmets, the mouth guards. They put those on for every practice. Someone who knows the game. Someone who knows the risks of every play. And someone who tries their best to prevent those risks. That waiver that cleared Marie medically to play football, that's a document that Klein prepared. It also said, "We will take reasonable precautions for safety." That's what a coach does. That's not what Klein's coach did. Coach Jackie Powell. Defense counsel also got onto Coach Clooney and said, you didn't do anything either. You didn't tell them this was unsafe. You voiced a concern and then you never said anything about it again. The jury, it doesn't matter whether it was Coach Powell or Coach Clooney who called the play, who ran the band, who knew about it. They both worked for Klein. They both were coaches of this team. The council told you we had the burden to prove two things to you today. One, Thomas R. Klein was negligent. And if that negligence is because Maurice's injuries, we have our burden today. Because we learned two things that Coach Jackie Powell did. He made a decision to run a play that was already moved. Then he modified it in a way that the game of football has quite literally never seen. Let's start with that first decision. Because we heard from defense that this play was all good, there were no injuries. Dr. Omega Adams had to tell us that that wasn't true. There were 2 injuries associated with the snake push. When the Giants ran it, there was a knee sprain and a dislocated shoulder. Those were probably accessible to find. When the Eagles ran the play, as we heard from Coach Clooney and Coach Powell, Jalen Hurts had his chest upright. He was kind of crouched over, but not very low, and his head was up. Theory. We also saw that when the Eagles run the play, there are 2 people pushing behind the quarterback. There were 3 people pushing Marique. But even if you're just looking at the tush push in its original form, we know from Dr. Cotter that it wasn't safe for 14-year-olds to be in that position. Even if Marique was low and he could get, even without being in that parallel position, running this play in its natural state, members of the jury, he would still be at the of 14 people, almost twice his size on the field. Even more than that, this play in its original form was getting banned. Coach Jackie Powell and Coach Al Clooney told you about the email they received today that said, this is going into effect next year. Coach Powell looked at that and said, I got 1 year. He didn't look up why it was banned. He didn't ask his athletic director. He didn't ask his athletic trainers if this was safe for his 14-year-old freshman football team. He didn't even do a Google search. He looked it up, watched it on TV. That's it. First decision that Klein made, that Coach Jackie Powell made. Even if we stop here, we still need a verdict. Because when the judge keeps the verdict form, the judge is going to tell you that in order to find negligence, to determine negligence, you look to the reasonableness of what someone would do in the same circumstances. Defense has talked a lot today about the fact that the play was legal at the time. Members of the jury, reasonableness is more than what's legal. Reasonableness here is what a football coach would have done in the same circumstances. Know that a reasonable football coach wouldn't put his shoes in the players of professional athletes' shoes. He wouldn't sign up his 14-year-olds to be at the bottom of an 11-person pileup where he's being pushed forward by people larger than him, especially not when there's 2 other quarterbacks bigger than him. Thomas R. Klein is negligent even if we stopped here. As I just mentioned, we don't stop here, unfortunately. Not only did he choose to call a play that was already controversial, he modified it. Jackie Powell came up here and talked a lot today about he thought this was safe. To put Marie's spine like this, with 3 people behind him, staring at the center so we couldn't see a thing going on around him. Powell said he thought that was safe. Based on what? We know that Jackie Powell did not do anything prior to running this play, much less doing anything before modifying. We heard from Murray today, he wasn't even told that this play was going to be banned. He told no one. The only thing that attempted to back up Jackie Powell's claim that this was safe was a defense's expert, Dr. Megan Adams. She got up here and testified about her good friend and how what he did was okay. What he did was safe. Members of the jury, it doesn't take a neurosurgeon to understand that this big 14-year-old spine, underdeveloped, pushed by 3 people instead of 2 that were bigger than him, straight head first into a center's back. Without even having the ability to see around him, it doesn't take a neurosurgeon to understand this is not a good idea. In fact, Dr. Cotter told us today. She told us the modifications Coach Jackie Powell made, it made the question of if someone got hurt running this play into a win. The modification will run 5 times. 3 times at practice on August 20th. We heard from Murray that even then his back was hurt, but he didn't feel like he could speak up. The next time it was run was during the game against Robert R. Little. Murray tells us again, and Coach Clooney tells us now that Murray's up and he's grabbing his back. Coach Clooney didn't do anything when he saw him. Remember, Coach Clooney worked for Klein. Here comes the 5th time. September 9th. And they run this play for what would be Murray's final drive. As we heard, this was the only time this play was run where Murray was low enough for Coach Powell's standards. He wasn't like this. It wasn't like this. It was like this. As we heard, that play went exactly how Jackie Powell designed it. 3 people behind him, pushing with all of their might forward. But there's a problem. That center is still in front of Rick. His helmet is still in that center's back. So when they push, his spine has literally nowhere to go. Compression of the spine, we heard it today. That's when the people start piling on top of Rick. Because again, that's the design. When you call a bad play, you get it bad. Coach Powell, why literally called all the wrong plays. We know Thomas R. Klein was negligent. We know that that caused Murray's injury because it was their choices. Decision to call it and decision to modify it. That put Murray there on September 9th. Find Thomas R. Klein live. Thank you.
That's like close.
It's our moment to just tell you things up here. Blind play by the rule. Blind the play that had proven success, but the PAA allowed teams to run and made that call only after every player on that team was medically cleared to play football at their own doctor. And we have to be frank. We're talking about a sport that carries the possibility of injury in every practice and every game for every athlete on the field. When injury happens, it's not automatically the fault of the school or its coaches. When this injury happened, it was a tragedy. Tragic for Marique and for his family. It was tragic for his team. But this case isn't about deciding whether or not this was a tragedy. It's about deciding what was reasonable. What was reasonable for a single person in the same circumstances. The person is a football coach. Circumstances or a play where no quarterback in the history of the game has been injured in any way ever. Now, the plaintiff had the burden today to prove to you that Ryan and its coaches were unreasonable. The plaintiff's lawyers didn't prove their case, and after what you've seen today, you know that they couldn't prove their case. Football is a competitive sport. Coach Powell wanted the team to be successful. Coach knew the team needed help in short yardage situations and did what we expect coaches to do. She looked to what reasonable and successful teams were doing, teams like the Eagles. Coach knew that the tush push had been run over and over and over again without a single injury to a quarterback. And members of the jury, who plays in the game of football can we say that about? Coach knew that when the tush push is run, players are stationary, trying to push forward. No high-speed collision. Coach knew that the governing body that sets the rules for Pennsylvania high school football allowed that play to be run in 2024. That her players were medically cleared for the game, that they have proper equipment. Coach was playing by the rules. Now, plaintiff's lawyers have stood here and told you that the danger is in the difference between the way Ryan ran it and the way the Eagles run it, but jury, Coach Powell tried to make the tush push even safer for her quarterback. When she saw that possibility of Jalen Hurts getting met at the top of the pile, taking a shot, she did what reasonable coach should do. She tried to minimize that possibility for her quarterback. You saw that in the video that we showed you earlier. Coach Powell drew up the play in a way that would allow the team to still achieve the play's goal, get that first down, advance the ball, run it again, while minimizing the possibility of her quarterback taking those shots. This wasn't a dramatic departure from coaching norms. It wasn't the invention of some crazy new play like they just told you. For those of you familiar with football, think about the Hail Mary. For those who aren't, it's a passing play. 5 receivers go to the end zone. All 5 offensive linemen do their job to try to protect the quarterback. The quarterback drops back, try to throw the ball as far as they can. If a coach told that quarterback to take 6 steps back instead of the usual 5, that coach just invented a brand new play. The coach sees the quarterback throw a sidearm and says, hey, I actually want you to throw it more like this. Is this revision of inches the invention of a brand new play? I drew up the tush push the way that it's run by the Eagles down at the link on Sundays, with a revision of inches designed to protect the quarterback. I played by the rules. But the lawyers for the plaintiff, they've tried to get you to evaluate the case today by a new rule book, one that they've written. They've tried to tell you by bringing a doctor in here to evaluate the call that part-time freshman football coaches like Powell, a history teacher during the day, should conduct medical research before they run a play football. They said Powell didn't conduct a single. Powell went blind, that no quarterback had ever been injured. That testimony is controverted today. No one has disagreed with it. They've tried to suggest to you by talking about Marique's size that the rules of the game should change if a quarterback is smaller than their teammates. Members of the jury. And more. And it's true, Marique was smaller than the teammates at Klein on the offensive line. But that's how football teams are built. That's why the offensive line is the one doing the blocking, moving people out of the way, protecting the quarterback. some added risk and it's not extra danger, that's just football. It's talked a lot today about how the play originated in the NFL. It must be crazy for a coach to use it with freshmen. But what else have we heard? Every level of football, from the NFL to college to high school, they run the same plays because it's the same sport. I remind you that we're talking about what a reasonable person in the same circumstances would do. Football coach, and the circumstances of a play that no quarterback's ever been put on before, knowing that the playbook comes from the NFL. It's not unreasonable to use the play that came down from the Eagles. Now, a lawyer's duty is to give you the full data to play with as a jury when you decide to go back and deliberate, talk about the case. And I have to talk about something that the plaintiff chose not to mention. As they were drawing up this demonstrative, I was asking myself, what are they doing? Why might they draw this up? We got the actual play from the playbook in evidence. It's Exhibit 3. Whoa. Exhibit 3. The first ones to talk about the play design. So why wouldn't we use the actual play? Is it because the actual play shows that there's space between the linemen? Is it because of the version of the play, they're trying to make it seem like he's getting run into a wall? The fact that they chose to not use the actual play from the playbook when we're here to talk about the actual play from the playbook speaks volumes. No. What else haven't we heard? They just talked about Coach Clooney. Said he's a coaching client too. His actions, her actions, excuse me, also matter. She saw Marie get hurt at that game against Robert Little, and she said nothing. She did nothing. Why am I the one who has to come up here and remind us of what Coach Clooney said when I crossed her? She saw Marie off the field, and she asked me, "Are you okay?" I said, "Yeah, by the next drive." But we asked Coach Clooney about that today. Remember that he finished the game. You learned players get banged up in football. It wasn't crazy for her to assume that maybe he just got in a bruise. Players get dinged up. It happens. Now, they brought you someone who tried to convince you that the decision to call a play where no player had ever been injured was more dangerous than the decision to call any other play. Who was that person? It wasn't an experienced football coach. It wasn't a doctor with proof or a doctor with data. It was Dr. Cotter, a doctor with theory. And you heard, she was sitting here, my co-counsel, Madison Smith. She asked her about it. Her article was on the risks of the tush push. No data, no citations, nothing to rest that writing on. And when she said this out loud, I wrote it down. After testifying on direct about her expertise here, about what she knows, what she's sure of, what she can testify to with scientific and medical certainty, took to a cross-examination for her to say, these are just my theories. No, there's never been a recorded injury to a quarterback at the time that I wrote that. Somehow this is a known cause of injuries to quarterbacks at the same time? Dr. Cotter doesn't like the tush push, and that's a lot. But the fact is that when you look at injury history of a game, full of injuries and the injury history of play that quarterback had never been hurt on before, tush push is as safe as you can. That's why we brought you Dr. Omega Adams. I'm a mechanical expert who actually studies the impact of force on the body. She's a spinal surgeon. That's why she knows Coach Powell in the first place. I'm doing her job. Make no mistake. Adams isn't here today. Professional reputation on the line because she's friends with Coach Powell. More importantly, Dr. Adams wasn't in the courtroom today because we liked an opinion piece that she wrote. She's here because she's a leading expert in the field. She taught us about the science of impact force. As far as plays in the game of football go, the tush push is slow. That low speed, it results in less impact force than we see on other plays in the game, where players are colliding at full sprint. That lower speed push safer than those other plays in the game. No, plaintiff couldn't attack her opinions, they couldn't attack her science, they attacked her for earning a living. But doctor doesn't need to have been in a car crash to talk to you about the biomechanics of a car crash. Doctor, you've never played football, you were never a water girl. Which was a good line. Fact is, science is sound. And because the tush push is safer than those other plays that we see in the game, it was reasonable for Klein to run it. Now, that disagreement between Dr. Cotter and Dr. Adams, it didn't turn this trial into some battle of the experts. In a game that everyone in this room knows is full of injuries. Dr. Cotter sat in this chair, looked you in the eyes, and told you that a play with no injuries to a quarterback, where no quarterback had ever been injured, was dangerous. Adams told you that the play was safe. That doesn't sound like much of a battle, does it? No. It's the plaintiff's burden today to prove this case to you. To prove to you that Thomas Klein High School was negligent, that Marie was injured as a result of negligence. They brought you unsupported theories and conjecture. That's not proof. No. Plaintiff's lawyers have tried to write their own rule book. They walked in here today and said, hey, everybody, we're going to play by some new rules, our rules. But members of the jury, that's not allowed in football, that's not allowed in science, it's especially not allowed in a courtroom. And soon, we'll be instructed by the judge what rules in this courtroom actually are. Not the ones the plaintiff's lawyers want you to play by, the ones that the law requires that we follow as we do our jobs in this world. Just playing by the rules on September 9th. It's our turn to do the same. We consider the verdict form. It's our job to play by those rules. So let's take a look at it. Question 1 is the big one. It asks whether the plaintiff has met their burden in proving to you the Klein High School was negligent. Because we know now that it's not negligence to play a sport by the rules. Your answer here is no. When you make a no, you told the bailiff that you've reached a verdict. Your job is done. Legal out of play. And just like Clyde High School was playing by the rules on September 9th, it's your turn to do the same. When you do, you'll be left with the only verdict supported by the law, supported by the facts, supported by your common sense. Not logic.
Comments, Ms. Grossenbach, rebuttals.
Yes, Your Honor. Heard earlier today, Jackie Powell just wanted to interfere. He wanted to be a pioneer. Congratulations, because he did turn out to be. As the defense just got up here and harped on almost every sentence, no quarterback was ever injured running the sneak push. Marie became the first. Ever. His coach Jackie Powell is the only one who wanted to play by his own rules. We know that because he got an email telling him this play was going to be banned. Coach Clooney got the same email. They sat down and had a conversation and said, let's do it anyway. It didn't matter that it was going out in a year to them because all he needed was some wins on that board and he was going to take it any way he could legally get. The standard of law is not what people would do that's legal. The judge is not going to say that to you at any time in your deliberations. The standard is what a reasonable person would do under the same circumstance. What a coach, someone who has 14-year-olds at their disposal, hanging on his every word, relying on his expertise, that is the person that you are to evaluate their conduct by what is reasonable. Was it reasonable for him to receive that email and do absolutely nothing to figure out why it was being banned? Was it reasonable for him to look at that play that the Eagles were running and said, my 14-year-olds can do that? Was it reasonable for him to pick the smallest person on his team to run it? No. If nothing else, this defendant had a duty to Marie to put his best interest in the game and to take reasonable precautions to make him safe. No one here is asking you to find Klein liable because they play football. I love it. Most people do. The issue was calling a controversial play. That was decision number 1. Decision number 2 was modified. And the only defense that opposing counsel could even offer you, not about the original tush push, because that's all they've got in their pocket. The only argument that they could make about the modification of the play was that we didn't have enough space in our circles. We should have just used the one that provided to us. Because this wasn't drawn as pretty as this one is, that's what I should find Klein not liable. That's not the problem. The problem was taking 14-year-old in a position, not like opposing counsel said, mere inches. Coach Powell, every time Marie ran that play, told him to get low and lower. Lower. Please blend. September 9th, when he was pushed with all his might by people weaker than him. That's when his spine shattered. Make no mistake. That call, the only moment. Marie signed up to play football. It signed up to be Coach Powell's battering ram. We know on the slide. I know what.
Your Honor, I do need to put an objection on the record. Didn't want to interrupt during opposing counsel's there.
Sure, tell me what it is.
The exact quote was, the only defense that Klein could offer you was that the play was drawn in. That's improper burden shifting. We've dropped our affirmative defense. Burden is on the plaintiff. We don't need to offer a defense at all. Just needed to put that on the record.
May I be heard? Sure. I never used the word burden. They are defending their client. That is what they're doing. I never assumed or speculated or even elicited the idea that they had a burden in today's case.
Okay. I don't want to ride this all the way to the level of burden shifting, but I am going to strike that portion of the argument, so the jury will disagree.
Yes, Your Honor.
Great. And with that, that is trial. Well done, everybody. We are gonna kick you guys out. Now, have all clear, we'll call you back in and do very good feedback.
Thank you. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Great job, guys. Really good job.
Great job, great.
Good job. Good job.